When I was a child, I was painfully shy. I wouldn't even say yes or no when people spoke to me. Making a sound made me visible, and I didn't want to be. People always said this to me because of the way I behaved. And as I grew up, I learned to use my voice, but I wasn't like other children. I'd walk 4 steps forward and 2 steps back because I thought, without moving backwards, how are we able to appreciate that we can move forwards? I developed strong emotional attachments to pieces of rubbish, and I hated wearing knickers. This is my favourite childhood toy. It's called a keeper, and I used to put things in it. And as soon as my mum dropped me off at school, I'd take my knickers off and put them in this. And my teacher would always shout at me.
Emily, don't do that. Take your knickers out of your keeper and put them back on.
I knew the location of every public toilet, which people thought was hilarious when you consider my surname. And I tap danced in Woolworths because the floor felt nice. But people would always say to me,
"Stop it, Emily! People are walking past."
I spent the majority of my childhood living in a dream world, where cities of tiny creatures existed in cracks between bricks, and there were magical worlds in graveyards and lifts. And sometimes, if you looked really closely, you could see them when the doors opened. I imagined my soul could jump into other people, and I could see the world through their eyes. I'd wander around school asking my classmates, "Who are you?" And I'd look in the mirror and I'd say, "Who am I?" I tried to figure out who I was from what was around me and what I was wearing and what was in my pockets. And sometimes I'd put clues in my handbag so I could say, "I wonder what kind of a person keeps a rubber chicken in their bag." I did not put that in there. And a teddy. I didn't put that in there. The person I've jumped into. What? And a peg? I didn't always know the difference between my imagination and the real world. I didn't fit in at school and was bullied and left university without a single lasting friendship. People always said to me,
"Oh, you're so weird."
And
don't listen to Emily, her head's in the clouds.
Or they laughed at me. I thought that there was something wrong with me. I longed to be a composer and an artist because I had so many ideas. Tiny nuggets of information that excited me, were magical or made me laugh hysterically. Like this one time my friend farted in a really tuneful way. And it was like the tone, the duration, the texture. They were just perfect. And at the time, I was studying musical composition and there were no female composers on the curriculum. And we were told that all the best composers were men. We weren't told why. And I thought, if I can recreate a piece of music using sounds from a female's bum, sounds that people think are dirty and unladylike, I can make a personal protest
Disgusting, Emily.
against
Don't
sexism
do
in
that.
Western music, but that is what people said to me. So I didn't do it. I wanted to compose a piece of music for my dogs, Django and Dave, and had visions of the Royal Albert Hall filled with people and dogs, and ushers running around with industrial-sized pooper scoopers. Like, logistically, it would be really, probably a nightmare, but it would also be hilarious. And I wanted to make a comment about the rituals that surround places like that, like the way we're expected to dress and behave when we're in them, the money it costs to get a ticket, and why so many people feel they don't belong. But when I spoke to people about it, they said,
"Emily, you can't do that. That's ridiculous."
So I didn't. Only a few years later, somebody actually did, in a park. I didn't mean to have ridiculous ideas. To me, they were normal. But everybody else said they were weird and stupid. So I decided to stop daydreaming and grow up. I had lots of jobs that weren't creative, but I got fired from every single one, all 9 of them, for stupid things like wearing purple boots to work or refusing to sign customers up to store cards because I thought it was irresponsible. So I tried creative jobs. For years I trained as an opera singer, but always frustrated my teachers, and they said,
Inherit your role. Let go, Emily.
But I just couldn't. I gigged for years as a jazz singer and a pianist, but I felt too self-conscious to improvise. I tried teaching children piano, drums, guitar, to sing, but knew I had to stop when I got so cross with one student that didn't practice. I made him cry. So I thought, I'm going to have a go at acting because that's what my family do and they're really good at it. But the best part I ever got was the back end of a tap dancing pantomime cow that dropped a turd every 4 steps. But I did those classes for years, never improving and never feeling comfortable when my teacher said,
"Scream, Emily! Release your inhibitions!"
I just hated people looking at me. Some days, I was a half-hearted sound engineer, and other days I was a dissatisfied wedding singer. But mostly, I was unemployed and signing on the dole. I lived in dingy flats and mooched around the house all day, drinking cups of tea, playing self-pitying piano solos by Ludovico Einaudi, wondering what the hell had become of my life. Why hadn't I become an opera singer, or a jazz pianist, or an actor? Why could I never follow through with anything I ever tried? Everybody told me what I should do.
You should focus on the piano.
It's not too late to take up opera again.
You should keep on acting.
But I didn't do anything for long enough or really believe in myself enough to try. I spent hours on Facebook looking at what my peers were doing, feeling jealous and depressed. I felt trapped and I was unhappy. I wanted to be successful, but I wasn't. And what was success anyway? Thomas Jefferson said, "If you want something you've never had, you must be willing to do something you've never done." I did have what I wanted before. I was myself, but I would do something I had never done. So I decided to stop listening to naysayers, and I said, "Emily, don't do that." It wasn't a sudden realization or a life-changing miracle. It was a decision. I really wanted to be myself again and allow myself to be me. So I decided to do my ideas, even if they were naff. And along the way, I asked people to help me, and I learned to let go, and gradually acquainted myself with me again. In the last 5 years, my life has changed. I've composed music and created art, and realised ideas I wouldn't have dared to before. Like occupying Alex Hartley's Vigil installation for Folkestone Triennial in 2014. I sat on a ledge suspended from the hotel bursting, exposed to the sea so I could compose music from a new perspective. I called it extreme composing, and despite my fear of heights, it is the best experience I've had in life so far. I realised my idea of creating magical worlds inside lifts. I wanted to create wonder in a place that we often ignore and take for granted. I wrote Lifted for a choir of singers to perform in public supermarket lifts. And recently, I started recreating this. I'm really glad you like that. I might develop that into a fuller piece, perhaps. For this year's Triennial, I'm creating a composition and a sound installation for a hidden Baptist burial ground high above Folkestone. It's called Halfway to Heaven, and I can't wait. Last year, 480 musicians and artists performed and helped me realise my stupid ideas. Doing what I do is the source of my happiness and something that I feel I have to do to live my life authentically. Although my life has changed a lot in the last 5 years, I now have the privilege of hindsight. I now realise that I moved away from who I was when I tried to be grown up and sensible. I used to express myself and my ideas through the way I looked at the world, and I didn't privilege some ideas over others. For me, the pieces of rubbish that I loved as a child are just as beautiful as a sunrise or a sunset. But when people said to me, don't do that, I made the mistake of listening. My mum and grandma visited me recently from Lincolnshire, and at one point, my grandma approached me and she said,
Who are you? Do you come here often?
I thought she'd lost her marbles until she laughed. She was doing what I had done as a child. And I thought maybe that is why people always said to me,
Emily, don't do that.
It's not right.
Emily!
Don't embarrass yourself.
Emily, don't do that.
I mean, perhaps I do things that people feel as adults they shouldn't do. But inside every adult there is a child that is not perfect and is still learning. And mine is excitable and sees wonder in things that people often ignore as they grow taller and further from the ground. Many of us spend our adult lives trying to fit in and trying to figure out our place in society and learn about who we are. But I think that the core things, the unique personality traits that make us us, are with us all along no matter what our age. That deep down we're essentially the same as when we were children. But life happens and things pile up and we have chores and responsibilities and demands, and along the way it's really easy to forget about who we are. Sometimes something happens that makes us reassess what it is we want in life, and a new lease of life breaks through and we do everything we wanted. Maybe for some of us it's just not that easy. In my case, I knew deep down what I wanted, but I suppressed it to fit in, to conform to other people's expectations of me, and because I didn't feel I was good enough. It took years of frustration and jealousy to realise what I wanted, and it came from who I was all along. The way I looked at the world, I just couldn't contain it, and I was fed up of ignoring that. Just this morning I went for a walk and I was looking at faces in clouds. I was looking at the shape of a seagull poo on my balcony and thinking that's really quite beautiful. And cracks in walls and veins in a leaf, and sometimes when I hear music, certain chords smell of food. Like F13, it smells of fresh bread. I really don't know why. And sometimes certain chords for me feel better than sex. And the fact that we're on a planet, I mean, so many people walk around and ignore the fact that we're on a planet. The chances of being alive on a planet in space, that is amazing. When I wrote this talk, I think I wrote what I thought you'd want to hear. It was full of tips and tricks to be more confident and be more you, but there are no tips and tricks. There are just unique experiences that help us develop and grow. And everything that I learned along the way, however bad I was at it, it had a purpose and a lesson. And I wanted to share that with you today. Talking to an audience about this is something I've always wanted to do, but I have been so scared. The fact that you're looking at me is really freaky. And I have been petrified out there. But I'm trying to challenge myself now. It's hard, and most of the time I still feel embarrassed about who I am. But then I remember all the times I couldn't inhabit my role in opera and drama, and all the ideas I ignored because people said they were weird and stupid, and I think, no, that isn't me. I have a voice and something worth saying. So I wrote this piece of music based on the fact that I would never do this before, and I haven't done it until now, and I really hope I can do it.
Inhabit your road.
Go!
Inhabit your road. Let go.
Go!
Inhabit your role, Emily.
Don't do that. Take your knickers out your caper and put them back on. Emily.
Let
Go!
Oh my God! Oh. I suppose what I want to say is, don't let anyone get in the way of being you and expressing yourself. But most of all, don't let yourself get in the way. For me, the biggest barrier of all was me, because I cared too much about what people think. But now with every piece of music I compose and every piece of art I create, I feel I'm gradually coming back to myself, because my ideas are me. Thank you.